We're joined here on OTV with the newest coach here on campus, Coach Brent Rastetter. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. Officially announced the new head coach of the new wrestling program this week ago. The wrestling program will start this upcoming fall, so you will be the first wrestling coach here at Otterbein since 1974. Coach, when did you find out that Otterbein was adding wrestling again?
I actually saw the press release back at the beginning of August. Came across it on the internet. I didn't think anything of it at that point in time, other than the fact that it was great that we were getting some more opportunities for the kids to get on the mat at the next level. And then I stumbled across the job on the internet, that it was being posted, and sat for a couple days thinking about whether or not I wanted to throw my hat into the ring, and I decided to do it, and here we sit.
You come to us from Lexington High School, where you spent 12 years as the head wrestling coach there. A whole lot of success, a lot of accomplishments. How hard was it to leave a place like that?
And I told the people back at Lexington, and I also told them here during the interview process, there were very few jobs that I would have left Lexington for. It was a great place. My wife teaches there. My kids go to school there. They've been very good to me, but this was an opportunity that I've kind of dreamed about. So I just couldn't pass up giving myself the chance to see if I could get the spot. And then once it was offered to me, it just felt like the right fit. So.
You spent your almost entire life in wrestling, whether playing, got your first head coaching job at just the age of 20. What's been your most proud accomplishment in your long career in wrestling?
Honestly, it's the relationships that I've made with the wrestlers and the wrestling family. I say it all the time. Everything that I do is labeled the Lexington Wrestling Family. It's important to me to have that kind of an atmosphere, and that's the kind of atmosphere that I'm going to want here at Otterbein, the Otterbein Wrestling Family. And it's not so much the wins and losses that stand out in my mind. It's the relationships that we've been able to build, and those boys still coming back into the room even when they're in the college or after, to give back to the kids. That's been the thing that I've been most proud of seeing.
You're making the move from the high school level to the college level. For those who aren't very familiar with the sport of wrestling, what's the biggest difference between high school wrestling and college wrestling?
The biggest difference right now is the fact that, other than match length is 1 minute longer, and we also have riding time at the college level that we don't have at the high school level. The rules are basically the same sets of rules, but the way in which the matches are allowed to be wrestled are different. It's a little more loose at the college level in terms of allowing certain positions to go further. They're a lot more protective of the kids at the high school level. So some of the things that I would not have been able to teach at the high school level, I'll be able to work with the boys at the college level, and that'll be in a little bit of an adjustment for me too, to kind of alter some of my style things that I do with the kids. But the basic concepts of wrestling are the same across the board. So just we'll be real aggressive, and we'll show up in shape, and we'll get after it. And for the most part, wrestling's wrestling. So it's just little minor things that'll be different, and that it'll take a little time for me to adjust to after 23 years at the high school level.
It's been 40 years since wrestling's been a sport here at Otterbein. How are you going to convince recruits to come here to Otterbein instead of a program that has a more established wrestling program?
I think that's the biggest selling point right now, is the fact that they can come and be part of something that's brand new. That to me is exciting. That was one of the biggest draws for me, is the fact that we get to build this from the ground up and put our personal stamp on it. We're not going into a situation where I'm replacing a coaching legend, or going into a situation where the program's in turmoil and we have to rebuild it. The administration here is great. I like the site that Dawn has put forth in bringing this program into play. So that's just really exciting to me, that aspect of it.
I'm sure you've got a chance to look over the facilities here at Otterbein. If you could, your thoughts on the Reich Center and the Clement Center where you'll be competing.
Yeah, I've talked with about everybody that I've come in contact with. Adam and I were just talking about this a little bit ago. For a Division III school, the facilities here are phenomenal. All the way across the board. I think that both the facilities and the support for those facilities are unlike things that I've seen in some of the Division I, programs that I've been around. So I think I'm very lucky and I'm very fortunate to be coming into a situation that has those kinds of supports and those kinds of facilities. We're going to have to get a little creative with the wrestling room to start off with, and then depending on the numbers, get creative with practices and things. But once we get that rolling, it's going to be fun.
In high school wrestling, a lot of the athletes who wrestle in the winter also play football in the fall. That said, what are the odds that you're going to try to convert some of the football players here and try to get them to come out for the wrestling team in the winter when football season's over?
Yeah, I mean, I coached football for 18 years. I am really big on that football-wrestling relationship, especially for the offensive and defensive linemen. I think it's great for technique, in football, and I know Coach Daup would agree with me on that because he's also got a strong wrestling background. I have no issue sharing those athletes. I know that football will be their priority, but I would love to have them out on the mat and competing with us, and I think it could only benefit them on the football field. So that's definitely something that I'm gonna look at trying to work in conjunction with Coach Daup to develop.
The 2016-2017 academic year will be the first year wrestling's a varsity sport here on campus, so you got about a year to build up the program. What's the overall goal for year number one?
Overall goal as far as number-wise, I'm really shooting to get 30 bodies into the wrestling room. We've had a lot of, just in the couple days since it's been released that I'll be taking over as coach, I've gotten a lot of inquiries already from kids and from parents, about wanting to come on campus and take a look and see what's available. So I think just because of the excitement of the brand new program and the location, with Columbus, downtown Columbus being so close, I think that we have a lot of advantages in terms of recruiting. So I think early on, just the newness is gonna kind of help it recruit itself, to get kids here. So I'm hoping to get 30 early on. I said in my interview my goal was to get 40 in the room on a consistent basis, and that's still my goal. So that's what we're shooting for. And in a sport like wrestling, it's not where we have to build up some kind of a team unity to get ourselves to the point where we're going to be successful. We can recruit the right kids and be successful right out of the gate, and that's what my goal and that's what my hope is.
In Division III, the Ohio Athletic Conference is one of the premier wrestling conferences across the country. You haven't been able to see much OAC wrestling, I'm sure, spending a lot of time at the high school level, but just your initial thoughts on the conference as a whole.
Yeah, I'm actually close to a couple of the coaches in the conference already. I've had a couple of my own wrestlers that have gone on to the OAC to wrestle, so it's a great wrestling conference. And Ohio and Pennsylvania are the two best wrestling states in the country, and these OAC schools are being fed by Ohio talent primarily, so that they're going to be good wrestling schools. So looking at the rosters, Mount Union carried 51 on their roster last year. Baldwin Walls had 38. So we know what we've got to shoot for to catch up with these guys, and we're going to do that.
Lastly, Coach, on a little bit more of a personal level, we heard the story that your son, Caden, 15-year-old with cerebral palsy, we know he's been an incredible inspiration in your life. If you could just tell his story and what he's done for your coaching career.
Well, it's kind of looking back on it, it was a crazy time period in our life. My wife and I had Caden. He's 15 years old now. We'd already had our older son, Colin, who's 18. He's across town at Ohio Wesleyan right now as a freshman. And when Caden was 8 months old, he started having seizures, and he was diagnosed with infantile spasms. We found out that in womb, his white brain matter didn't develop. So, he's gone through a lot in his lifetime. And at that same time, I was also diagnosed with cancer. I went through Hodgkin's at the same time that, our boy was kind of going through all this stuff. So it was a rough time in our life, and it taught me a lot about myself, and it's been able to help me instill certain things in the wrestlers. And then seeing what this little guy has gone through, he's had, I've been in the hospital with him for 6-week stays at different times because he's had to battle through certain things, and he is just the toughest little guy that I've ever been around because he gets through all this stuff, and he's still got a big smile on his face and a great laugh. He is nonverbal. He can't talk, but man, his laugh fills up the room. So that has been probably the greatest thing in my life as far as teaching me where my priorities are. So wrestling to me is what I love to do, but winning and losing is not going to define who I am or who any of the kids are that walk into the wrestling room. What I want them to do is walk out of here with a degree and be able to go on and use the life lessons that they've learned on the wrestling mat to help them get through any kind of obstacles, like the lessons that I learned in wrestling helped me do with Caden and with the cancer and the different obstacles that I've had to overcome. So if they leave this university, whether they're a national champion or they're just a 4-year practice partner in the practice room, but if they leave the university with a degree and can go on to bigger and better things, I'm going to feel as though we've really accomplished something.
What an inspirational story. Thank you so much, Coach. Welcome to Otterbein.
I'm happy to be here.
We look forward to covering your wrestling team throughout the years. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.